said the only problem with him doesn't have any controversy. He needed a little controversy. And Kyle's point is, and I think it's a good point, and Trump's point is that you get eyes to you, and the streamers who are quote unquote have some controversy to them, which let's be honest,
mainly old ones.
You're not the only streamer.
10 years old, but
it's a way also of I think that eyes are always on people like that. And you can't avoid it.
Sure. It's not necessarily just controversial either. It's just like being at the forefront. Like AOC, I don't think has any controversies, right? But for a long time, she was just like tweeting and like very active. And she was like talking to people like, what was that joint legislation with Ted Cruz for the bill?
She has like good relation. Like would you ever follow some of these people who are in Congress, like watching and I forget, Punch Bowl News guy. Who's that? You guys know the name. He's always like tweeting AOC just fist bumped Matt Gaetz, or AOC just fist bumped some insert the most conservative, unhinged person there is. But yeah, sorry to interrupt you. But
no, you're good. I just heard it sounds like there's a hurricane outside, but
it's just the city,
windy,
bro.
Yeah, it's the city. Yeah,
it's the windy city.
Yeah, no, it's not. But nice try. It's pretty cold up here. I'm a big baby now that I live in Florida. But
do you want me to put the heat up?
No. I meant like in the city in general.
Oh,
it's actually kind of chilling here. But I just meant that like because I'm coming from Miami, where it was a cool day when I left. It was 66 degrees outside. Yeah. And then I come here and it's like 26 degrees.
Sorry about that,
by
the way. We did get you a hot chocolate.
You did, actually. Thank you so much.
Yeah. No whipped cream. You don't like it?
It's just I don't need it.
Yeah.
I don't need it, yeah.
So moving forward along, you and other streamers, you don't want to group yourselves collectively.
Unfortunately, they don't.
But there might be more appetite in the future. Are you open to those kinds of conversations?
Yeah, of course.
And okay.
Depending who it is, as long as they do a full retraction of the lies they've told about me, 100%, yeah.
Oh, wow. But to be honest, I think making yourself, sort of putting yourself out there first and not necessarily waiting for there to be the Avengers get together first, I think that's...
Yeah, there always has to be like a first mover. Somebody has to do it to show that it's possible. And then everybody follows suit. I think there's a lot of unexplored territory, especially when it comes to technology, that people just don't know. And then when somebody does it, all of a sudden it's like, oh shit, like let's go. This has happened technologically several times in the past, whether it was finally dropping support for Flash, or whether it was getting rid of the headphone jack, or whether
USB-C.
it was USB-C. Yeah.
You don't like USB-C?
That wasn't quite the thing I was thinking of, but like I'm thinking of things where like everybody was like, this is a bad idea, you can't do this. Elon Musk charging more for API access, everybody was like, this is horrible, and now everybody charges for big API access. The headphone jack thing, people made fun of Apple for getting rid of headphone jacks, then everybody followed suit on that, and now Bluetooth is standard. So I think everybody copied Google because they did the open office stuff, and then everybody realized afterwards, oh wait, this is a disaster.
Right. And now you're copying Joe Rogan, but you're not asking questions about dinosaurs or aliens.
Because neither of those things are real.
Dinosaurs aren't real.
Nor aliens. Give me credit for half.
But can I ask, so you did not go down that route of just like, you shot the shit a little bit. It was definitely like still a kind of formal conversation though. Why was that? Were you genuinely interested in in seeming professional, or you were asking the questions that you felt he wanted to hear, or what was it?
I'm super like civics pilled now. Now I'm like really interested in the ins and outs of, like I could have talked for a long time. I'm very curious how you go from one realm to the next and take all the things you've learned with you and implement them at the higher. Like I was unsatisfied with his answer. Although I understand what he's saying, and that like it sounded like he was saying as long as you have good first principles, you can implement things from one thing to the next. But like he had a program that he did as the mayor of Baltimore for the city stat thing, and then he literally became the governor and had the state stat thing, and it was a really good carryover from one to the other. And I'm just curious like the challenges that you like face when you do that. Somebody asked me, I think yesterday or the day before, like what would you ask Obama if you could ask him one question? And my question would be, coming into office, there are ideas that you had. What did you find out that you were like naive about? Like what changed when you were in office? Like these kind of like governing questions, I think are really interesting.
Wasn't that a Rogan question as well of Trump? I think
he tried to ask what it was like governing, but Trump was too stupid to understand what was being
asked.
You
think he's stupid? He's cunning.
No, I think he's stupid.
You don't think he's cunning?
Think he's cunning. I think he has it's hard to. I don't like to use the word intuitions because nobody knows what that means. Trump has really good intuitions for conversation that happen to work. But it's not like he's intentionally thought about these things. And I think that's evidenced by the fact that sometimes he can't adapt or he can't do what he should be doing that would be way better. He just has, like, naturally, he's just kind of, like, suited for the current environment. Trump is like a guy in a moment in time. Like 5 years earlier, 5 years later, nobody would know anything about him.
Do you feel like you understand his mind? Because sometimes Trump's for me, it's a very alien mind. I try to read his intentions and stuff, but it can be a very alien thing to get into his head or try to. Do you think that you understand him? Is everything okay? Someone just got banned.
My bear going on a rampage. I like it. Um, can I understand Trump's mind? I feel like I can. Yeah.
Yeah.
It just depends on the issue. He's just like a standard populist. He likes to do things that people will like him for, and whatever he feels like the current popular thing on the right, popular thing is what he'll support. What it feels like.
One thing that I would love for you to drill down on is this push and pull between leading and following the candidate leading or following what the population's at and meeting them where they're at.
Oh yeah, I didn't get to ask him that question, but yeah.
Yeah. But what for you is the proper balance there? Because on the one hand, and here's to TYT's point, and maybe to their credit, they're like, the Democratic Party is not at insert issue here. Trans people in female sports. The Democratic Party is not at insert straw man about crime there, or whatever, or maybe actual fact position. What is the breakdown there, and do you think that we should see more leadership from the leaders, or more recalibration of where the electorate's at?
I think the boring answer is it's a combination of both, but it's like a strong combination of both. There needs to be like a strong recalibration to figure out like where are we at that we can have conversations about things. Like I do agree it was probably a mistake not to have stronger conversations about illegal immigration, if for no other reason than to head off bullshit conservative talking points. And then it needs to be a stronger conversation of like leading us into a certain direction. I always forget the name of the guy running in. It was 2016 where there were like 10 Democratic candidates, or was that 2020?
2016 there was like 4 or 5, I think.
Okay, 2020.
And O'Malley was one of them.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, 2020 was where there were like 10, right?
Yeah, that was with Warren,
Bald black guy. What was his name?
Cory Booker.
Yes.
Yeah.
He said one thing on stage that stood out to me so much,
Yeah.
and it was that the Democrats. This is still the Democrats demonize success. And I think that's a huge problem. We do. It's like these business owners and these billionaires and these like we're like if you're successful, you're like a
Yeah,
fucking
but did you
enemy.
hear Chris? What's his name? Sununu. And by the way, I think by the way that there's like a ranking of the different levels of culpability of people who are bowing to Trump, and I would put maybe near the center of that circle smart Republicans who recognize the evil of MAGA and Trump, but go along anyway. People like Chris Sununu, people like Nikki Haley, people like Bill Barr, those kinds of individuals I think deserve most of our contempt. Anyway, Chris Sununu goes on TV and he's like, the great thing about Elon is he's a billionaire. We shouldn't demonize billionaires because they can't be corrupt because they already have so much money.
Okay, that's funny. Yeah.
And so, but you're saying, why should we demonize success?
I'm just saying that in general, yeah. I talked about this with M Dog, where Democrats when they talk about things, they're always like in the form of punishments as opposed to opportunities. Like he said, like green energy. I was actually that might have been. It might have been Steyer that presented it this way, or it might have been somebody else in an earlier thing where it was like
Tom Steyer, the billionaire.
Yeah,
Yep.
who ran for a Democratic ticket, and it was like a single issue environmental stuff. And it was like America could be a leader on green energy. Like that would actually be cool. I like the idea of that. And it's so funny because packaged correctly, like people feel that way because everybody loves Elon Musk now. They either liked him on the left because he pushed electric vehicles, and now they like him on the right because of whatever. It's really funny the idea of this like white trash guy who would have been rolling coal in like a huge truck now might be driving like a cyber truck, like an electric vehicle. You know,
I'm not going to say who, but there's someone who's been helping with this that has a Tesla.
To be fair, they bought it pre everything.
True.
That's okay. But yeah, I think that no, you're good. Yeah, I think that presenting things as opportunities, I think, is more important because also like something that I said that I had a lot of trouble with. I had a conversation with Richard Spencer, hosted by Adam22, and one of the things that
He retweeted my conversation with Kyle Kalinske.
yeah, I think he might be a left liberal now. Everybody says he's mask on, but I don't follow enough to know. But I don't even care that much. But one of the things that Spencer said to me when we were chatting,
Or optics pilled, and you just said Richard Spencer is a liberal.
I don't know if he is. He might be. I don't know. I haven't followed his shit because he's
bad.
apparently changed a lot over the past few years. But
I'll
I don't know. Don't care. All I know is that one of the things he told me in the conversation was that like you need a common enemy to have your people like working towards something. And unfortunately, I disagreed with him at the time, and now I'm feeling more and more like, fuck, if we don't have a common enemy, we all just kind of like turn on each other. And I almost wonder if that's true. That enemy can be like a problem though, right? We could like focus on climate change or getting green energy. Like we could orient around a particular thing. I still think that the United States of America can accomplish untold things if we have the mind to do it. And we're just so divided right now. I wish we could just identify a problem as an opportunity and work towards that better. Yeah.
I totally think that that's true, that there needs to be some kind of common goal, common enemy. For me right now, what I think is important is calling out like the blatant corruption, I think, of the dark MAGA oligarchs, like I have to say Elon Musk and others, who are openly doing things for their bottom line, like deregulation, we could agree to disagree on the H-1B visa issues with like Bernie, and I don't agree with Bernie on the H-1B visa issue. I don't think you do either. I think you want
Yeah, but these are economic differences, right?
right.
Bernie's motivated by economics.
That's
I don't
what
think
I
he's
mean.
motivated by racism.
Yeah. So I think the reason, and this is so important, I think, for why just the appearance of agreement, like you said at the first segment, where we're using the same terms, where we're saying, yes, I agree with the H-1B visa, or no, I don't agree with the H-1B visa, but the reason why you're doing it is almost more important. How you think is more important than what you think. And so for me, I think that calling out the corruption of these oligarchs in Trump's administration has been a common enemy that it's using a lot of the I call them neural pathways that people already have. People are already skeptical of the rich. People are already skeptical of those in power.
I don't think that's true, unfortunately, but
You don't think so?
I think these are all proxies for other things.
You're saying I'm wrong.
Yeah, if you think that. I think that people said that they were skeptical of the rich or skeptical of whatever, but that's only when they identified them as an enemy. But that principally they're not attached to, because that's why for a long time I was like, how can you have been so worried about, the corruption of the billionaires or whatever else, and now you've got 7 billionaires in Trump's cabinet. You've got Elon Musk. Trump himself is a billionaire. Like, what's going on there? Clearly, that was never the concern. It was something else. You just didn't like a rich that was advocating against your interests. But when they're advocating for your interests, you're actually okay with it. You don't actually have a problem with the wealthy or the billionaire class. It's just when they're against you.
But does that? I understand that ideologically, you're correct there. But in terms of the messaging, Occupy Wall Street, even the messaging of MAGA is very much centered on. Now, they're not actually anti-corruption. I think that they're pro-corruption.
For sure.
But they speak in those terms, just like they speak in the terms of patriotism and love of country. But you and I think they fucking hate this country.
It should be a crime every time I hear Glenn Beck or one of these degenerate fucking losers talk about the founding fathers or whatever bullshit and defensive authoritarianism. Like, you guys are actually out of pocket. It's insane. Yeah. It's so gross. Charlie Kirk.
And he thinks he knows everything.
19 of them so far. Well, and then I read 7 or 8 other ones in the higher end. So I'd say 26 of them actually. But just the most, these are people I've argued against who say that well, the funny thing was Greenwald saying Fort Sumter wouldn't have been an insurrection if not for the Civil War. And then there's Owen Schroyer, where we were debating, and I was like, weren't you chanting about an insurrection? Like, no. And it's like, didn't you have a 1776 thing? It's like, yeah. And it's like, wasn't that an insurrection? It's like, no, that was a rebellion.
Jeez. That debate was ruthless.
Yeah.
I'm hoping the one with good logic, you guys we'll see. Well, something about the in-person stuff. It is different meeting someone in person. It is.
Maybe. Not for me.
Like, if this had been a Zoom call,
the whites of their eyes.
No. If this had been a Zoom call with you and the M man,
I would be much warmer.
You think it'd be warmer?
Temperature wise.
Oh.
No, I do agree with you. Yeah. No, in person is always better.
He
said it actually. He said it much
up.
with the governance stuff, right? He said that doing real campaigns and stuff. There's no substitution for it. Yeah.
And I'm curious. Well, you have these in-person interactions with right wingers all the time.
Not anymore. But
are there any positive ones in recent memory in the last 2 years?
Yeah, when I was sucking up to their side and everything, they were always positive. People always thought I was the reasonable liberal or whatever. Yeah.
But in the last year, in the Trump era stuff,
post the assassination attempt, I try to avoid those because I don't know if I'm going to get assassinated. So I'm trying to chill, especially after I always used to joke. I think that Fuentes was kind of my canary in the coal mine, and now that people are showing up at his house trying to kill him, I'm like, okay, well, let's let's be chill,
It's wild.
Kind of, yeah.
Completely wild. All right, let's again shift gears to our next candidate. So you talked about state and local stuff and how important it is for your life and where most of the laws and regulations that you have to deal with on a daily basis come from actually the level of sovereignty below the federal. And one of the beautiful parts of the framework that the founders had for us was this dual split sovereignty thing where they have states that are sovereign and they have their own authorities. And obviously
the federal government exists to help regulate and control the United States of America, but the individual citizens are controlled by their state governments. So the laws that are closest to us are dealt with at a local level, and the federal government is just for federal stuff between states and everything else.
Right, and it's really a post-Civil War thing that the United States was a singular as opposed to a plural. But a great deal of sovereignty and power is retained still to this day by the states. And a great deal of what you do is impacted by your local officials. To that end, we are going to speak with a state senator. Now, before we get into his particular background, what are your experiences with state-level politicians, and why do you think that could be a useful background, which, by the way, O'Malley also had, to bring to a national-level conversation?
My guess is going to be state level people are a bit closer to the actual electorate. They interact with them more. Even I'm sure that O'Malley looked favorably upon all of his elected offices, but he seemed to be like a little bit more chipper, even bringing up Mayor Baltimore. That was like a position. Mayor is probably one of those positions where you have like the most people that you're kind of in charge of, while also still having like a pretty close connection to the people themselves. Like once you get this governor position, I imagine, especially depending on the state, you're probably getting quite a bit more abstracted away from all of the people. So having, yeah, state level politicians that have their own districts where they're listening to their own voters who are representing, state problems and district problems, you're probably getting a much closer connection to what the people are actually thinking rather than just like abstracted polling data and everything else. Yeah.
So let's talk specifically about New York for a second. There are a lot of issues with respect to the city that have generated a great deal of disagreement and fervent belief. And for example, I'll give you one, is the tax on, oh my God, someone will help me out.
Restaurants.
No,
Shoes.
Coming into the city. I forget the exact name of it, but basically the
import tax.
No.
Illegal immigrant tax.
Help me with DGG.
Movement tax.
DGG.
Road tax.
It's
the congestion pricing.
Congestion pricing.
Yeah, I remember now.
Thank you guys. Yeah, you didn't remember that. You stole that.
No, I remember.
But how do you think? So there's a lot of focus on those local issues. Do you think that are you worried that they predominate and will overcome the national level strategy that one would need to be a successful DNC chair, or do you think that closeness to the electorate or to the people who are voting for you is worth the trade-off if there is such?
I think a good leader is somebody who can incorporate people that shore up their weaknesses.